Let me take care of it, Braxton said, his intensity palpable as he veered toward the group. Raelynn watched him transform, slipping effortlessly into the role of charismatic host and shrewd operator. Just as she strained to hear the threads of conversation among Milton and his accomplices, she felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Derek, the art dealer, who stepped in with a playful grin. "You've got that look, Raelynn, like you're about to perform some heist on the Mona Lisa herself." Raelynn groaned lightly. "Oh, please, this is nothing on the legends of art. You know the risks I face every day." "Ah, but none of those are surrounded by this much creme brulee," he said, gesturing grandly towards a lavish dessert table, the sweet scents of caramelized sugar filling the air. "An adventure in every bite." "Your priorities are well placed," Raelynn laughed, the tension ebbing slightly. The moment was light, but the undercurrent of their schemes remained. She turned her attention back to Braxton, who stood engaged in conversation, his expression unreadable yet intent. The evening wore on, and the stakes heightening with every half-hidden whisper. Raylan's heart raced, not just from the thrill of deception, but from the magnetic pull between her and Braxton, the weight of their shared secrets begging for release. As she watched him, resolute and determined, she couldn't shake the feeling that tonight was a prelude to revelations neither was prepared to confront. "Time to uncover those secrets, eh?" Derek nudged her, catching her off guard. "Absolutely," she replied, her voice steadier now, volleyballing back and forth with the tension. "Or die trying." "Now that's the spirit," Derek grinned, raising his glass in a toast before he too merged back into the crowd, leaving Raelynn to stand alone with her thoughts, her focus shifting once again to Braxton. In this world of polished facades and heartfelt ambitions, they were all playing one grand game, and the stakes were life and love. Scene 63, moments before the gala. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an amber glow over the sprawling estate. Raelynn Barrett stood in the grand foyer, adjusting an intricate silver bracelet around her wrist, the delicate metal catching the fading light, a simple accessory yet imbued with memories of her past. Her heart raced as she heard the soft shuffle of guests outside, muffled laughter mingling with the sounds of clinking glasses. Tonight, the annual gala would crown the island in an air of glamour, but beneath that veneer lay tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Raelynn took a deep breath, inhaling the rich scent of jasmine from the extravagant floral arrangements that adorned every corner. Each petal seemed alive, loaded with expectation, as if they could whisper secrets she didn't want to hear. Her mind flitted back to the extensive art pieces she had curated for this showing. Every brushstroke, every frame, including the hauntingly enigmatic piece that whispered truths about her family's history. "Do you need help with that?" A smooth voice cut through her reverie. Braxton Vale stepped into view, his presence commanding the space even before his words settled. He wore a charcoal suit that embraced him like a second skin, accentuating his athletic frame. The confidence in his stride sent a shudder of awareness through Raelynn. "No, I'm fine," she replied, though the slight tremor in her hands betrayed her. "Just getting ready for tonight." The corners of her mouth quirked up, and she met his deep-set gaze, battling against her swirling emotions. "Looking good isn't enough," Braxton teased, his tone light while his eyes grew serious. "You need to keep your guard up. You'll be the center of attraction, and not everyone's motives are pure." Raelynn returned his gaze, feeling the pulse of energy between them, a current of unspoken understanding layered over their troubling histories. "Are you implying I need protecting?" she bantered, although her heart fluttered at the thought of his fear for her. "Just a reminder to be cautious," he said, stepping closer, the air thick with an almost magnetic pull, an unrelenting intimacy that raised the stakes. "You know how these events can turn." Just then, a soft laugh echoed through the open doors. A flurry of elegantly dressed guests poured in, and with their arrival came an undertow of scrutiny. Raelynn glanced up at Braxton, desperate for reassurance. He brushed his thumb across her wrist, an intimate gesture that seemed to slow time, making the chaos around them fade. She felt the warmth of his touch seep through like a gentle tide, wrapping her in his confidence. The laughter of their friends erupted in the background as she held her breath, caught between fear and exhilaration. For a moment, the noise faded, and it was just the two of them, His eyes, dark and deep, reflected a storm of raw emotion, comfort, tension, and a hint of something deeper, something electrifying. As if sensing the shift, he leaned in slightly, his breath warm against her skin. "Raelynn," he murmured, his voice a low thrum that resonated with the tension in the air. "Whatever happens tonight, remember that you have more strength than you think." She could only nod, lost in the intensity of his gaze, each heartbeat drumming louder than the festivity outside. "What if I need that strength sooner than anticipated?" Raelynn whispered, the weight of their secret webbing between her thoughts and the reality of their intertwined fates. Before he could reply, the sound of an argument filtered into the foyer. It was Timothy, their mutual friend, animated as he gestured wildly to Angela, with her sharp blue dress clashing against the gilded doors. "No way! You don't get to decide what's important without my input," Timothy fumed. His voice sparked a ripple of conversation among the guests. "Back off, Timothy! It's not your diorama!" Angela shot back, her arms crossed defiantly. Raelynn felt the tension swell again, but before she could comment, Braxton immersed himself in the chaos. "Hey, what's going on?" His authoritative tone cut through the rising discontent like a knife. Raelynn watched as the familiar faces of their friends swirled around her, laughter mixing with shouts, jealousy lurking under the surface. It was all too much. The thrill, the laughter, the fight all dancing dangerously close to a precipice. Taking a step closer to the unfolding drama, Braxton turned back to her briefly, eyes glinting with mischief. "Maybe tonight you'll surprise yourself," he said, the promise lingering as he shifted into the fray. And in that moment, Raelynn knew. Standing on the edge of the known and the unknown, every decision mattered. The gala would be anything but ordinary. Scene 64, Heartbeats and Lies. Raelynn Barrett leaned against the grand entryway of the opulent villa, the heady aroma of jasmine and vanilla wafting through the open doors, mingling with the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses from the gathering inside. The sunlight had begun to fade, casting a warm golden hue across the polished marble floors and creating shadows that danced among the extravagant decor. She should have felt exhilarated by the energy around her, but instead, a tight knot formed in her stomach. "Raelynn," shouted Janelle, her best friend, weaving through the crowd, the sequins of her dress catching the light. "You're hiding. Come show off your ensemble." "I'm not hiding," Raelynn replied, forcing a smile as she adjusted her bracelet, feeling the weight of its presence on her wrist. "I just what?" Janelle snorted, playfully bumping her shoulder. "Look at you. You're a vision. Time to mingle." With a resigned sigh, Raelynn followed Janelle inside, her heart thudding to the rhythm of the bass-heavy music. Guests swirled around her, engaged in laughter and conspiratorial whispers, the air buzzing with secrets floating like confetti. She felt the weight of their gazes, curiosity laced with judgment. Across the room, Braxton Vale stood tall, effortlessly commanding attention. His dark gaze seemed to drift around the room, landing on her for just a moment, igniting a flicker of warmth within her. Their connection always felt like a shared secret, vibrant yet intimidating. But now, with whispers of illicit affairs and hidden agendas thickening the air, that warmth was tinged with apprehension. "Raelynn," called Tony, a flamboyant art dealer, his enthusiastic hand gestures slicing through the thickening tension. "I've missed our debates. What did you think of that hideous sculpture outside? It looked like something from a garage sale, right?" She couldn't help but chuckle, feeling slightly lighter. "You know I wanted to set it on fire. It deserves that fate." Nearby, a tap on her shoulder made her turn. It was Lena, her former internship mentor, radiating cold politeness. "Raelynn, dear," Lena said, her voice syrupy but edged, "I see you've made your way into such exclusive circles." Her eyes slid toward Braxton, who was now engaged in a low conversation with another guest. "And yet, here you are, playing curator to a social mess." Raelynn clenched her jaw, the laughter around her muffled by a sudden rush of adrenaline. "What a delightful greeting, Lena. I thought we were past the surface, but it appears I was wrong." She felt the intense heat of defiance rising within her. "Surfaces can be so terribly deceiving, my dear. I'll be sure to let the others know how you've adjusted to your new reality," Lena retorted, her icy smile faltering. Before Raelynn could respond, a sudden ruckus erupted from the terrace. Guests turned their heads as a commotion spilled into the room, laughter turning to gasps. Janelle slipped away, curiosity sparkling in her eyes, leaving Raelynn to stand alone at the lip of the chaos. Braxton's eyes shot toward her, a mixture of concern and possessiveness flashing across his features. Their gazes locked, the tension between them palpable. The world around them blurred into an indistinct roar, where nothing else mattered except the deep understanding they shared. In that heartbeat, an invisible thread connected them, binding them tightly. He approached her with a purposeful stride, his presence both commanding and reassuring. "Stay close," he murmured, the warmth of his breath brushing her cheek. "I can handle it," Raelynn replied, leaning slightly into him, the electricity between them intensifying. "Can you?" He arched a brow, teasing laced with sincerity. "Because right now, it seems everything is spiraling." Suddenly, a loud crash punctuated the moment, shattering their fragile bubble. A waiter had dropped an entire tray of drinks, the glass clinking and rolling in every direction like scattered confetti. Laughter erupted amid the chaos. Raylan's heart raced as she watched the scene unravel. "See? Just a little excitement." Braxton took a step closer, lowering his voice. "In the midst of chaos, you hold the power. Don't forget that." His gaze lingered on her lips, stoking an urgent fire inside her. A soft, hesitant breath escaped her as their proximity ignited an electric tension, air thick with unspoken possibilities. She felt herself drawn to him, the world fading once more. But just before their lips could meet, the charm of the evening hung precariously overhead, weighted by the secrets and lies waving to the surface like treacherous tides. "Are you ready for whatever comes next?" he asked, his voice deep and resonant. Raelynn smiled, a mix of determination and exhilaration simmering beneath the surface. "Together, then." And with that, everything around them blurred further still. Scene 65, a web of deception. The grand ballroom of the Skywind estate glittered like a constellation brought to earth. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, casting prismatic reflections that danced across the carefully arranged tables, laden with exquisite hors d'oeuvres and flutes of bubbly champagne. The air was thick with the intoxicating blend of rich perfumes, sizzling laughter, and the soft strains of a string quartet playing a sultry rendition of a classic love song. A sense of anticipation buzzed like electricity in the crowd, a gathering of the elite, each with their own designs hidden beneath the surface. Raelynn Barrett stood at the edge of the dance floor, her gaze sweeping over the crowd with a mix of fascination and unease. Clad in a stunning emerald gown that hugged her curves, she felt a momentary dissonance between the lightness of the evening and the weight of her own swirling thoughts. The dress, a piece from her own collection, felt more like armor tonight. She could sense the scrutiny of the guests, their eyes trailing over her as discussions flitted from art to politics, ambition to scandal. Beneath the smiles and pleasantries lay sharp-edged secrets, and Raelynn was acutely aware of her own. Across the room, Braxton Vale moved with a kind of regal ease, his presence commanding attention. He wore a tailored suit that complemented his dark complexion, his confidence as palpable as the tension tightening in Raylan's chest. A few paces away, he spoke with Lord Emerson, a powerful art collector whose faux congeniality barely masked his predatory nature. The older man leaned in, whispering something that made Braxton's brow furrow, a fleeting moment of concern that Raelynn caught just before he turned back to her, his eyes softening. "Raelynn," Braxton said, stepping closer, the noise of the gala fading into the background for them. "You look breathtaking tonight." "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, yet heavy with layers of emotion. Uncertainty settled within her, as the earth kept turning under their feet, while their universe felt precariously balanced on the edge of chaos. "How are the negotiations going with Emerson?" He chuckled, a sound rich with dark humor. "As slippery as ever. I suspect he's fishing for anything he can use against us. I trust you didn't share too much when discussing the Calder collection?" The unspoken weight of their concealed pasts hovered between them, but Raelynn offered a small smile. "Just the necessity of our exhibition. Nothing he can find leverage in, I hope." An undeniable gravity pulled her closer to him, and in that moment, the cacophony around them melted away. The flickering of shadows danced along his cheekbone, giving him an ethereal radiance. She studied the way his lips curled slightly, betraying a tease she often found enchanting. "Dance with me," Braxton asked, his voice dipping low. A spark flickered within her as she took his hand, their fingers intertwining with ease, casting aside her earlier doubts. They stepped onto the dance floor, swirling amidst the elegance surrounding them. The music shifted to a softer melody, allowing their bodies to sway in fluid harmony. With each beat, the world outside blurred. The tension from the evening ebbed, leaving a soft intimacy enveloping them. As they moved in a gentle rhythm, Braxton leaned down, brushing his lips against her cheek, a whisper of warmth against her skin. "There's something I need to tell you." Raylan's heart raced, caught between the tantalizing possibilities of revelation and the encroaching dread of what might spill forth. She held his gaze, willing him to continue, but a hush fell over the crowd, a shared silence fractured by a sudden commotion nearby. A figure stumbled, brandishing a wineglass like a weapon, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. Gasps filled the air, and words of disbelief spread ripples throughout the gathering. Behind her, a sharp argument erupted. Two guests she barely recognized stood with clenched fists, accusations flying like artillery. In that instant, the magical bubble around Braxton and Raelynn burst like a bubble in a tempest. The air thickened with whispers of scandal and betrayal as guests began to swarm toward the disturbance. "Raelynn, stay close," Braxton instructed, his protective instincts flaring as he tugged her lightly towards the side. "Braxton," she started. "Trust me," he said, his voice firm but hushed, pulling her away from the chaos. As the crowd swirled around them, Raelynn caught glimpses of her past unraveling in a way she had never anticipated. The threads of deception began to weave themselves tighter, and amidst the laughter and opulence, there was a dawning realization: everything was about to change. And pulling the mask off the night's true intent would expose far more than hidden ambitions. "Whatever happens," Braxton murmured, his eyes never leaving hers, "I need you to promise me something." "What is it?" Raelynn asked, her heart pounding, caught between fight or flight. "Promise me you'll be ready to face it." His grip tightened as the tumult threatened to swallow them whole. Raelynn nodded slowly, uncertainty mixing with an unyielding resolve. The night was far from over, and in the heart of the gala, their destinies were about to collide in unexpected ways. Scene 66. Betrayal Exposed. The grand ballroom of Vale Island was a living tapestry of extravagance, the air thick with the mingled scents of fresh flora and decadent cuisine. Crystal chandeliers cascaded like waterfalls of light, illuminating the elegant figures swirling beneath, their laughter and chatter creating a symphony of gaiety. Outside, clamorous waves lapped at the rocky shores, roaring softly against the wind, mirroring the turbulent emotions brewing among the guests. Braxton Vale stood at the center of the room, his dark eyes sharp as onyx, scanning the crowd with a protective vigilance. The whisper of silk against skin was prominent as Raelynn Barrett glided beside him, her gown a deep emerald that complemented her captivating features. She was radiant yet tense, her delicate hands nervously smoothing the fabric over her waist. Braxton could feel her resolve flickering like the candle flames adorning the lavish tables. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, his attention fully on her. Raelynn forced a smile, though her emerald eyes shimmered with uncertainty. "Just a touch overwhelmed," she admitted, glancing around at the diverse assembly. Each guest had their eyes shimmer with ambition, secrets lurking beneath every polished exterior. Across the room, Hannah Yates, an art collector and longtime friend of Raelynn, stood with her husband Dallas, engaged in a hushed but animated conversation. Dallas's jovial laughter cut through the murmurs. "And you truly thought that piece would sell for anything less than a small fortune? You must have a death wish," he teased, his voice a touch too loud, mingling with the laughter. Hannah shot him a glare that could freeze fire. "Maybe if you paid attention to my instincts instead of your love for flashy displays," she rebuffed, igniting a playful squabble. Nearby, Melanie Tran was weaving her way through the crowd, a cocktail in hand, eyeing the new arrivals with keen curiosity. "Have you figured it out yet? The mystery behind tonight's gala?" Melanie nudged her partner, Paul, who was more preoccupied with trying to impress their table than with any intrigue. "I thought it was just a party," Paul shrugged, attempting to blend into the background but failing miserably considering his loud tie. Braxton always knows how to put on a show. Or hide something, Melanie whispered, her voice a conspiratorial tone. I heard rumors his brother was involved in something dangerous. Back at the main table, tension already simmered in the air. A sharp laugh cut through the crowd as Raelynn glanced toward the entrance. A tall, confident figure strode inside the renowned art critic Oliver Stringer, with his disarming charm and a troubled past. His presence alone drew a collective breath of intrigue from the attendees. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, raising his glass with exaggerated flair. Tonight, I come with news that will shake the very foundations of our little soirée. Raylan's heart raced, recognizing the caustic glint in his eyes. What does he mean? She whispered to Braxton, but before he could respond, Oliver continued, his voice booming through the ballroom. I am delighted to reveal what I have uncovered regarding our dear Raelynn Barrett. It seems secrets are the essence of art, and hers are more colorful than we imagined. A collective gasp swept the room, echoing like a wave crashing on the shore, while Raylan's face paled. Braxton stepped in front of her, his body tense and defensive as he confronted Oliver with an intensity that could ignite the air. Back off, Stringer, Braxton commanded, his voice like gravel. Oh, I intend to do just the opposite, Oliver smirked, unfazed. Did you really think you could keep her past hidden while she spends nights surrounded by potential enemies? Or worse, allies? Gasps turned into murmurs of shock and confusion while Raelynn felt her composure dissolve. Stop, she yelled, glancing nervously at the crowd, feeling their scrutiny piercing her facade. This isn't the time or place. For what? A declaration of betrayal? Oliver sneered, his words dripping with malice. Your true colors are about to be revealed, wouldn't you agree? Meanwhile, Dallas had found his way back to Hannah's side, concern etching his features. Should we say something? He murmured, eyes darting across the narrative unfolding like a dangerous tapestry. With the stormy waves booming outside and the chandelier crystals shimmering ominously above, Braxton's protective stance didn't waver. You don't know what you're playing with, he warned Oliver, tension simmering just below the surface. At the periphery, Melanie leaned towards Paul, wide-eyed with anticipation. This is beyond what I expected, she murmured. It's like reality TV, but with real consequences. As Raelynn felt the weight of the room settle on her shoulders, a fierce current of vulnerability rushed through her. Braxton, she whispered, but his gaze was fixed on Oliver, a war-torn battlefield igniting beneath the surface. Whatever happens tonight, Braxton said firmly, you won't face it alone. The storm raged on outside, the wind howling as if the universe itself was aware of the unraveling truths. Raelynn swallowed hard, her heart pounding against the fear that clung to her throat. She locked eyes with Braxton, the heat between them, a contrast to the chaos surrounding. Betrayal loomed in the air, but their connection sparked a flicker of defiance against the tempest. Together, she finally murmured as the curtain lifted on the drama of their lives. Scene 67, a dance of danger. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue on the lush gardens surrounding the grand estate, its vibrant colors awakened by a gentle breeze that teased the blooming orchids. An intimate gathering was set beneath the sprawling canopy of an ancient oak, adorned with twinkling fairy lights that danced in tandem with the murmur of laughter and clinking glasses. Raelynn Barrett stood at the periphery, her heart thrumming in sync with the enchanting atmosphere, though tension knotted in her stomach. Braxton Vale approached, his dark eyes piercing through the jubilant chatter like a bolt of lightning in a summer storm. He was a paradox sophisticated yet rugged, his presence cloaked in an electric allure that drew Raelynn in even against her better judgment. The shadows under the trees swirled around them, creating an air of clandestine intimacy amidst the whirl of celebration. Care for a dance, Braxton murmured, his voice a low timbre, a whisper meant for her ears alone despite the surrounding crowd. He extended his hand, fingers splayed, beckoning her to join him. Raelynn hesitated, glancing at the other couples swirling effortlessly on the dance floor, their movements fluid like the soft notes of the string quartet, yet something deep within urged her forward. She placed her hand in his, the warmth of his palm igniting sparks that raced up her arm. As they stepped onto the dance floor, the world around them faded into a haze of color and sound. She let herself breathe in his scent, an intoxicating blend of cedarwood and something distinctly him, which steadied her nerves. Their bodies settled into an unspoken rhythm, her heart a captive to the moment as they swayed together, lost in each other's energy. "Raelynn, there's something electric between us, isn't there?" Braxton said, his gaze unwavering. The weight of his words seemed to echo with a hidden promise that sent a shiver down her spine. "Is it the music? Or just your charm?" she teased lightly, injecting a playful note to hide the flutter of vulnerability swirling within. Yet the intensity of his stare was anything but playful. He was serious, intent, a smoldering fire banked by the cool air around them. "You know it's not just the charm," his voice dropped, turning intimate, raw. "It's the stakes we carry, the truth we're about to dance into." As the melody shifted from gentle to passionate, a surge of energy swirled around them, hidden gazes and stolen whispers from both friends and foes witnessing their dance. The chaotic undercurrents of the evening pulsed in the background, but all Raelynn could focus on was the feel of Braxton's hand on the small of her back, guiding her effortlessly, intimately. "Promise me something," he said, brushing a stray curl behind her ear, the tenderness in his gesture eliciting goosebumps across her skin. "Whatever comes next, it's us against the world. No secrets, no shadows." "I can't promise you that," Raelynn breathed, her heart racing as she whirled momentarily under his coaxing hold. Her childhood loomed large, a specter she had long tried to bury beneath ambition and desire, yet his words unraveled her defenses. Braxton tightened his grip for a heartbeat, his brow furrowing as though he felt her hesitation in his bones. "Why do you have to make this so complicated?" He leaned closer, brushing his lips just a breath away from her ear. "You're not just your past, Raelynn. You're so much more." In that quivering space between breaths, tension coiled tighter, vibrant and alive. The laughter and chatter of their guests faded into a dull thrum, a world blocked out as his presence enveloped her wholly, heart and mind converging into a singular focus, the promise of this moment. Raelynn shifted her weight closer, daring to meet his gaze that held both challenge and understanding. Slowly, assuredly, she leaned in, brushing her lips against his, a fleeting kiss that tasted of resolve, of secrets yet to be told, of a growing trust that threatened to illuminate the shadows of their entwined lives. As they parted, their foreheads rested together, both caught in the swell of their shared vow, the unspoken agreement lingering in the air, a dance of commitment above a tide of disquiet. "Together," Braxton whispered, sealing the promise between them as the festivities surged and swelled around them like a distant storm, the world's chaos momentarily forgotten. Scene 68. An attack from the shadows. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm, golden hue over the opulent gala. Inside the airy ballroom of the luxurious oceanfront estate, laughter mingled with the soft clinking of champagne glasses and the scent of exquisite hors d'oeuvres wafted through the air, inviting guests to indulge. Amidst the lavish decor and the gentle hum of classical music, Raelynn Barrett moved gracefully through the crowd, her keen eyes taking in the art pieces she had curated. "Tell me again why I let you talk me into wearing this," she murmured to Gwendolyn, her flamboyant friend, who stood beside her in a vibrant red gown that swished dramatically with each movement. "Because, darling, you look like a vision," Gwendolyn replied, adjusting the large sparkling earrings that dangled elegantly from her ears. Raelynn wore a flowing emerald dress that hugged her form just enough to accentuate her curves, creating an unmistakable magnetism. "Besides, we both know these gatherings aren't just for the art." Raelynn chuckled, a nervous flutter in her stomach. True enough, but keeping up appearances can be so draining. Just then, Braxton Vale entered the room, his presence commanding attention without uttering a word. The soft murmur of conversations faded as his eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on Raelynn. A smile broke across his face, unlocking something deep within her, a security blanket amidst the chaos. "Excuse me, girls," he chimed, his rich baritone cutting through the air smoothly. "I need a moment with the stunning curator." His grin held a warmth that softened the edges of the gala's sharp decorum. Raelynn stepped away from Gwendolyn, her heart racing slightly as she approached Braxton. "What are you doing here?" I thought you'd be in the back, brokering deals or something." "Yes. Well," Braxton replied, leaning closer, his breath a mix of sandalwood and citrus, "I found the art to be surprisingly dull compared to you." His gaze drifted from her eyes to the intricate embroidering on her dress, where he traced a finger through the air, almost mapping the lines. Just then, the room plunged into darkness. The murmurs turned into gasps as the chandelier flickered and dimmed, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "Stay close," Braxton commanded, grasping her wrist firmly yet protectively, leading her toward a dim corner. The atmosphere shifted, tension building like a taut string ready to snap. "What's happening?" Raelynn asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Security's on it. Just hold on a sec," Braxton replied, his eyes scanning the room, alert and focused. Amidst the sudden chaos, a crash resonated, followed by shouts erupting from the main hall. The guests' panic fed the rising tension, the echoes of uncertainty bouncing off the ornate walls. In an unexpected surge, two masked intruders stormed through the crowd, brandishing weapons and frantically yelling for everyone to get down. The elegance of the gala was replaced by raw fear, the laughter now twisted into cries of confusion. Raylan's instincts kicked in. She tightened her grip on Braxton's hand, pulling him closer as she shouted, "We need to help them, Braxton." Her heart pounded, not just with fear for her own safety, but for everyone around them. "No, we hide," Braxton responded sharply, his voice infused with a protective urgency. "We can't act rashly." But Raylan's spirited resolve propelled her forward, a moment of clarity illuminating her intentions. The chaos intensified as one intruder grabbed a guest, forcing them to the ground. Braxton, torn between his instincts to protect Raelynn and the need to confront the attackers, wrestled with his options. But Raelynn, with her relentless passion, slipped from his grasp. "Raelynn, don't!" he called after her, panic threading through his voice. She darted towards the fray, finding an empty wine bottle and launching it at the masked figure with surprising precision. It shattered against the floor near his feet, momentarily distracting him. The chaos swirled around her, illuminating a strength she didn't know she possessed. Braxton surged after her, adrenaline coursing through him as he found her pushing against the tide of fear. He swiftly caught her arm, his expression intense. "We're fighting this together." At that moment, their eyes locked hers wide with determination, his dark with protective fury. And just as the world around them threatened to collapse, amidst the adrenaline-fueled tension, their connection pulsed powerfully, illuminating the fear and danger before them. Together, they faced the shadows, each heartbeat resonating with resolve. "Whatever it takes," Braxton said, grounding the promise in a fierce gaze. The world around them faded, leaving only the fire of their combined will against the encroaching chaos. Scene 69. Under Siege. The opulent ballroom shimmered under the golden glow of crystal chandeliers, their light refracting into 1,000 prismatic colors upon the polished marble floor. The air buzzed with laughter, the clinking of champagne flutes and the soft strains of a quartet weaving through the elegance of the evening. Raelynn Barrett stood at the edge of the crowd, her amber gown flowing like liquid sunlight, a testament to both her ambition and her connection to this world of art and wealth. But beneath her confident exterior, a current of unease danced in her chest. She glanced at Braxton Vale, who was leaning against a pillar, his dark eyes scanning the crowd, alert and brooding. "Isn't it lovely?" Raelynn asked, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Braxton turned slightly, his expression inscrutable. "It's impressive," he replied, "but I've seen better." There was an edge in his voice, an undercurrent that spoke of danger, though Raelynn couldn't decipher its source. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The doors to the ballroom burst open, and a group of masked figures stormed in, their movements sharp against the backdrop of genteel society. Gasps echoed as guests turned, shock registering on their faces. Raylan's heart raced. She felt a weight settle in her stomach, as if the opulence around her had turned to ice. "Everyone, stay calm." Braxton's voice cut through the chaos. His tone was firm, authoritative. "Back away from the center." The crowd hesitated, uncertainty etched on their faces, but Braxton stepped forward, tearing through the stillness. He positioned himself in front of Raelynn, a human shield, his posture radiating strength. She could see the tension rippling in his muscles beneath his tailored suit, an embodiment of fierce protection. "What do they want?" Raelynn whispered, pressing closer. The scent of his cologne filled her senses, grounding her in the midst of panic. She noticed the way his brow furrowed as he kept his gaze fixed on the intruders. "Let's focus on survival first," he said, his voice low, but there was an undertone of sentiment, a silent promise that he would do everything to keep her safe. As the masked figures approached, the frantic murmurs of the crowd crescendoed into a tumultuous wave of fear. One of the intruders wielded a weapon, its metallic glint sending icy shivers through the room. "Nobody move or we'll erase this entire charade." His voice was deep, hollow, void of any humanity. Raylan's breath quickened, but Braxton remained unyielding. "You don't want to do this," he replied, keeping his hands at his sides, palms facing out, as if to defuse the situation. The leader of the intruders turned his attention towards Braxton, the threat of violence hanging in the air like storm clouds about to unleash their fury. "And you think you can stop us?" he sneered, stepping closer. In that moment, a plush velvet curtain behind them stirred. Raelynn turned instinctively as a young woman, a fellow curator, rushed in, her eyes wide with horror and urgency. "We need to evacuate. Get everyone out," Braxton shouted back, never taking his eyes off the armed intruder. Raelynn felt tension coiling in her, fear intertwining with an odd exhilaration for the first time. She stepped forward, taking charge alongside Braxton. "We'll help," she said, her voice steady, underscoring her resolve. "Stay behind me," Braxton insisted, gritting his teeth. "No, not if I can help it," she said, determination igniting within her. She turned to the curator. "Do you know the emergency exits?" "Yes, I saw them backstage," the woman responded, her voice trembling. The masked leader's attention deviated, sensing weakness. "I said, don't move." "I know you're scared," Braxton said, inching forward. "But you don't have to do this. There's a way out." Raelynn felt the heat radiating from Braxton, a wall of strength she could lean against despite the madness unfolding around them. She caught his gaze, and for a fleeting moment, the world narrowed down to the two of them. "Together?" she whispered, her heart thrumming in sync with the chaos. "Always." A sudden loud bang pierced the air, and a shot rang out, causing a ripple of terror. But as the chaos unfolded, amid the whirl of bodies and fear, Raelynn realized that their fight had just begun. In that instant, the island's opulence shattered, leaving only their resolve to survive the night and perhaps to discover a new depth to their connection amidst the chaos enfolding them. Scene 70. Protect and defend. The air was thick with tension, punctuated only by the distant sound of crashing waves against the rocky shore of the exclusive island. Raelynn stood with her arms crossed, a self-protective stance, eyes narrowed at Braxton. "Tell me you didn't know," she demanded, her voice a fierce whisper that hardly reached above the ambient noise of the chaotic gallery opening behind them. "I had my reasons, Raelynn. This was never just about you," Braxton replied, his voice low but steady, emanating authority despite the emotional storm brewing around them. Shadows danced across his face, obscuring the depths of his conflict as he turned away briefly, the flicker of regret haunting his features. The overwhelming scent of polished wood and fresh paint filled the air, a reminder of the excitement they both once felt in this venue, now turned ominous by revelations and accusations. As the biggest showing of the year faded behind them, they were steeling their hearts against the crashing waves of betrayal. Raelynn took a breath, the coppery tang of tension filling her lungs. "You could have trusted me. We could have faced this together." Her feet shifted on the cold tile, her resolve felt as precarious as the porcelain sculptures lining the walls, teetering on the edge of an emotional precipice. Braxton turned back to her, emotions flaring like a tempest. "I wanted to protect you. Your past, our past, it looms over everything." His eyes were fierce, yet the darkness had a tinge of softness beneath it. He stepped closer, closing the distance, their proximity sparking an electricity that was hard to ignore. "But did you ever let me decide? Or did you just decide everything for me?" Raelynn shot back, her tone rising as anger welled within, battling alongside an undeniable attraction. The bright lights of the gallery flickered as if echoing the flickering between them. With a suddenness that made her heart race, Braxton reached for her arm, his touch firm but not restrictive. "Raelynn, I was afraid of losing you. If that means staying silent, carrying this burden alone, then so be it. His voice softened as he searched her eyes, his thumb brushing against the soft fabric of her sleeve, a gesture so tender it cut the tension in half. Staying silent or outright lying? She fired back, her heart squeezed by the weight of mistrust. Do you even hear yourself? The gallery buzzed with guests mingling, laughter peppered with the clinking of champagne flutes, an ironic backdrop to their unfolding drama. Outside, a sudden crash reverberated through the air, a loud disturbance breaking the elegant atmosphere. A group of well-dressed patrons gasped as a window shattered, sending shards across the polished floor. With an unspoken agreement, their argument shifted. Raylan's instincts kicked in. She stepped toward the sound, her body instinctively aware of the potential threat. Wait! Braxton grabbed her wrist, his expression shifting from rage to concern in an instant. It's not safe. I'm not going to hide, she shot back, her resolve solidifying. We have to see what's happening. As they moved cautiously through the splintering chaos, voices erupted around them, friends scrambling to avoid the scattering glass. An artist flailed, yelling incoherently while the crowd murmured, questioning the sudden upheaval. But Raylan's focus was on another sound. A sharp bang echoed from the depths of the gallery. Suddenly, the laughter faded, replaced by a heavy silence. Raylan's resolve crystallized, and she turned to Braxton, their eyes locking with an intensity that bridged the chasm of their recent conflicts. We stand together or not at all, she declared, her voice steady, reclaiming the authority she had fought so hard to establish. Surging forward, they plunged into the chaos, prepared to confront whatever lay ahead, each step a reaffirmation of their bond and a testament to their resilience. Braxton, eyes steely and full of admiration, nodded. Together, then. And as they stepped into the fray, the danger loomed large, and the hearts that had been hesitant a heartbeat ago were now beating in unison, fiercely protective of one another, ready to face the storm brewing on the horizon. Scene 71, The Pursuit. The sun hovered low over Malhaven Island, casting long shadows through the dense foliage that pressed closely against the narrow pathway. The curling rays filtered through leaves rustling in the salty breeze, making the air feel electric and tense, palpable reminders of the chaos that had erupted moments ago. Raelynn paused, her heart racing as she bent to tie her laces. The fabric of her lightweight pants clung slightly to her skin, damp from the humidity. The world around her felt too quiet now, a deceptive calm that only amplified her anxiety. Raelynn, we need to move, Braxton urged, his voice low and urgent, but laced with an edge of grounded calm. His deep eyes darted towards the undergrowth, scanning for any sign of their unexpected pursuers. Every instinct in him screamed to protect her, and it added a layer of tension that stirred beneath the bravado. Don't linger. She straightened, the weight of his words pressing down on her like the humidity enveloping the island. Don't you think we should plan this out? We can't just rush into. We don't have the luxury of time, he interrupted, his tone tightening as he stepped closer, their eyes locking. You think if we stand here discussing tactics, they'll just disappear? We need to get ahead of them. Raelynn felt the heat of his frustration mix with her own. She had always admired his strategic mind, but here, in the imminent threat of their attackers, it simultaneously inspired confidence and stoked jealousy. And what makes you so sure you know the right way? She quipped, the slight sarcasm escaping before she could contain it. The tension between them sizzled like electricity, igniting righteous indignation to accompany her simmering fear. Because I've dealt with worse. I've had to. His voice rose involuntarily, but then backed down as he closed the distance, softening with an intensity that made her breath hitch. We can't afford to let this get personal, Raelynn. Not now. Those words shot through her like ice water. Of course it's personal, she shot back, her voice biting. You've known about my past longer than I have. You think I can just shake that off while we're dodging whatever shadows are creeping up on us? Raelynn, he said, the sternness fading into something softer, yet firm. I have no intention of letting your past define your future. Yours or mine, but that can't be our focus right now. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of salt and earth, grounding the moment. She took a deep breath, the air thickening with unspoken emotions. The weight of her insecurities clashed with the intensity of his gaze, and for a fleeting second, their tumultuous bickering felt like an oddly romantic dance amidst danger. Braxton turned away, arms crossed against his chest. If we don't get moving now, this moment will mean nothing. Follow my lead. The resolute cadence of his voice melted any remaining tension within her. She nodded, pushing aside her doubts faster than the shadows creeping towards them. Without another word, they plunged further into the lush greenery that seemed eager to engulf them, their hearts pounding in sync with the rapid drumming of their feet against the earth. The atmosphere thickened with the scent of damp leaves and the sharp metallic tang of sweat, each inhale amplifying their urgency. Suddenly ahead, a flicker of movement caught Raelynn's attention. "There," she whispered sharply, pointing toward a figure slipping behind a tree. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled. "We have to be careful." Braxton's expression hardened, transforming into that charismatic veil of strategic intensity. "On my mark," he whispered, his voice so low and deadly she could hardly process it. They crouched, both testing the frazzled boundaries of their budding trust. Fear and anger swirling into something that felt almost like an unspoken promise. Raylan's heart raced as they exchanged a brief glance. The flicker of understanding and defiance sparked a renewed strength within her. She was determined to prove her worth, not just as his ally, but as a partner, someone who could stand firm against the weight of either of their pasts. "Ready?" Braxton mouthed, and it was more than just a question. It was a way of reaffirming that they were in this together. "Always," she breathed, igniting the kindling between them. They surged forward, moving with purpose, embracing both the dangerous thrill of pursuit and the intoxicating resolve that flooded the air around them. Scene 72, A Heart Stolen. The winds whipping across the cliffs of the exclusive island mirrored the turmoil raging in Braxton Vale's chest. Rain drizzled in a cool mist, shrouding the towering palms and vibrant bougainvillea, the sweet scents of the flowers battling against the salty ocean air. The waves crashed violently against the rocks below, a natural symphony of chaos echoing the storm of emotions swirling within him. He stood at the edge of the balcony, the sea spray brushing his skin, invigorating yet fraying the edges of his resolve. He turned, his gaze softening as it landed on Raelynn Barrett, poised beneath the muted glow of lanterns that flickered like soft echoes of warmth in the barren night. She was bundled in a light sweater that hugged her frame in all the right ways, the soft fabric contrasting against the sharpness of the evening air. Her hair, usually tied back in a proud display of curls, cascaded around her shoulders, glistening wet strands catching the light and enhancing the brightness of her warm brown eyes. "Raelynn," he started, his voice a low rumble, barely rising above the sounds of the tempest. He took a step closer, damp grass squelching beneath his shoes. "You shouldn't be out here in this weather. It's rough, and—" "I know who I am, Braxton," she interrupted with an edge of defiance, yet her eyes glimmered with uncertainty. "I know the risks." "Do you really?" His tone dipped further, a plea hidden beneath his fierce exterior. "You're straddling a line, Raelynn. One slip and it could all." "And? You think I don't know that?" She met his gaze, a challenge burning like a flame in her eyes. "Every decision I make has a consequence. You know that better than anyone." "That's exactly why I worry," he admitted, taking another step towards her. The distance that had once felt inevitable began to vanish, the tension between them palpable. "I won't stand by and watch the past repeat itself." "Then don't." Her challenge hung thickly in the air, but as she took a breath, it felt heavier loaded, suffused with vulnerability. "You don't trust me." "It's not that," Braxton replied, torn. He could practically trace the anguish etched into her brow, the way her fingernails dug into her palm. "I trust you, but I care for you deeply. If anything happened, then that's all the more reason to stop pushing me away." Raylan's voice broke a little, frustration spilling out. "You keep talking about danger, as if I can't handle it, but isn't that part of loving someone? The risk?" It struck him, raw and undeniable, like the biting wind gusting around them. His heart thundered in his ears, drowning out the crashing waves. "Raelynn, I don't want to lose everything. Losing you is more than I can bear. I'm not sure how to love you without feeling like I might break." her brow furrowed, and for a moment she was taken aback, swallowed by the weight of his admission. "Then stop pretending like everything is so black and white," she whispered. "You're not the only one with walls, Braxton." He took a tentative step forward, nails raking against his palm, the roughness grounding him. "What do you want from me?" he implored, the tempest in his heart echoing the storm around them. "Not much," she said after a moment, her voice softening. "Just someone who sees me, the real me. Not the curated facade, but the woman underneath who makes mistakes, who seeks redemption." And as her words rolled off her tongue, the rain intensified, each droplet beating against the railings like a desperate chorus. Lifting his hand nervously, he nearly closed the gap again, battling with the fantastical urge to pull her close and shield her from the darkness threatening their fragile peace. "I see you, Raelynn." His voice shook as the thunder cracked overhead, but there was a conviction within him now. "And it terrifies me just as much as it exalts." She stepped closer, the ground beneath them solidifying as if the earth aligned, bearing witness to their connection. "So can you allow your heart a space to love me, to not fear what could happen?" Braxton's pulse roared in his throat. With the stormy night as a backdrop, he didn't need a grand declaration. The promise hung unspoken in the air between them, heavy and charged with possibility. Perhaps all I need," he murmured, pressing a finger to her chin gently, raising her face to meet his own, "is to trust that you won't let go of me either." And in that breathless moment, the world around them faded. The rain danced, and the gale stilled, focus narrowed to the electric anticipation lingering just before their lips could meet. A heart stolen but not relinquished. Scene 73. Unfolding the truth. Raelynn staggered slightly as she vaulted over the threshold of the gala, the cacophony of laughter and clinking glasses fading into a haunting echo behind her. The salty breeze from the ocean whipped around her, carrying a tang of freedom that felt foreign yet intoxicating. She turned, her pulse quickening as Braxton offered her a steadying hand. "Are you sure you want to run?" he asked, his voice taut with concern.